Hi crafters, it's Hannah from HanCraftedCards.com. Welcome to my channel today. Today we're going to be talking about how to use the Stampin' Up trimmer, but in particular I'm going to be talking about using the measurements and how to actually read the measurements. So if that's something that you struggle with, then be sure to keep watching. And also, if you're new to my channel, I do a lot of tips and tricks videos and tutorials, so if that's something that you like, then please consider subscribing and don't forget to share the video as well. So let's get started. So I've got you zoomed really close into the trimmer so we can have a look at the measurements that you actually get on there. So me personally, I always work in inches. For some reason I just find that easier to understand, and that's just how my brain automatically works in inches. So I use the inch measurements that you see along here, but it does also have centimetres down here and at the top as well. And on the other end of the trimmer down there, it's got the same. And also on this arm part of the trimmer, which I'll show you in a second when I zoom back out, it's got centimetres. So I'm going to be talking about inches today because that's what I work in, and that's what I understand. So you can see on here you've got your 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, etc., and it goes out, and then you've got all these little lines in between. Now what are those little lines? But how I understand it and how I try to explain it when I'm talking to other people about measurements, mostly my mum, when I'm trying to explain to her how it makes sense to me, is inch is divided up basically, and you can divide it just in half, and so you've got 2.5 inches, or you can divide it into quarters, so then you've got 2.25, then 2.5, then 2 3/4, so that's dividing it into 4. And then you can divide that again, so then you'll get 8 increments, that's the word. So then you can divide that down again, and then you'll get 16 increments. Now I know that still sounds a little bit confusing, so I've got a ruler that I just printed off the internet. I literally just googled inch rulers and I printed some off. This is from mathtube.com, so I will leave a link in the description as well, so you can print one off for yourself, and then if you do struggle with it, then you've got one as a reference. So you've got here 1 inch, so if you divide the inch into 2, then you get your 1/2 inch, which will be there. Oops, that pen's not very good. So that's dividing it into 2, and then it's basically I guess multiples of 2. So then from dividing it into 2, you then divide it into 4, so that's when you get your 1/4 inches. So that would be there and there, so that would be 1/4, then you've got your 1/2, then you've got 3/4, because you've divided that inch first into 2, then into 4 sections. I hope that makes sense. So then after you've divided it into 4, you divide each of those increments down again, so that would give you 8. So on here it doesn't actually have the lines for 8, but oh no, tell a lie, yes it does. So then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. So that's 1/8, then 2/8, and it goes on until you get to 7/8, and then the full inch. So does that make sense? I hope it does. So basically you're just dividing the inch into smaller and smaller increments. So then from the 1/8 or the 1/8 measurements, increments, if you divide that down again, so each of those little increments, you're going to half that, that will give you 16. So it doesn't have the lines for the 16 on here, but that is just the mark that's in between. Actually, use a different colour. in between each of the 1/8 marks, like so. So that would be 1/16, 2/16, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you've divided that inch into 16 smaller little increments. So if you have a measurement and it says 2 and 3/16, so you go, let me poke it all, 2 inches and 1, 2, 3 little increments. And if it was 2 and 7/16, it's very faffy, but it would be 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Another little tip that I use to remember where some of them are is obviously you've divided that inch into 16 little increments. Half of that is going to be 8. So the 8/16, which you wouldn't have that measurement because that is just half an inch. So, but if you remember that 8/16 is the halfway mark, then you're kind of going to remember where 7/16 is. It's just the one before half, if that makes sense. So just little tips and tricks like that sort of help me remember whereabouts I'm going. So the same with if you come back down here to 7/8, I know that a whole inch is 8 little increments. So 7/8 is going to be the increment before the whole inch, if that makes sense. And again, 1/8 is going to be the increment just after the inch, because that's just the first increment. So does that make any sense? I don't know if I'm making this more complicated or not, but we'll go again just so we can, if you repeat things over and over, then hopefully that way it sticks in your brain a bit more. I'm just going to grab some different colour pens. So we'll go over each one again. So you've got your inch, then you've got your halfway point, 1/2 inch, and then you would divide that down again, so then you have quarter measurements. So you're dividing that whole inch into 4 increments, so that would be there and there. So that would be your first quarter, then half, then 3/4. So that inch has been divided into 4 increments. So you've got 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. So that's sort of halves and quarter measurements. So then up to 1/8 measurements. So this is where you divide that whole inch into 8 little increments. So it's got them there already. So you've got 1/8, 2/8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So when you see something that says 2 and an 1/8 or 3/8 or something 1/8, you've divided that inch into 8 little increments. So then you just need to count how many. So if it's 3/8, then you count 1, 2, 3, 5/8, etc. Okay. Then you've got 16ths, which is dividing that whole inch down into 16 little increments. So I'll just draw those extra lines in. So if it's 2 and 3/16, you'll count 1, 2, 3 little notches. 3/16. So then it goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16ths, and then you've got the next whole inch. So Does that make sense? I hope it does. Like I said, I will put a link for these in the description so you can write this out yourself, and hopefully that way it will stick in your mind as well. So if we bring the trimmer back in, oops, so you can see, if we look at this inch here, so 3-4 inches. So if you wanted 3.5, that's quite simple. You would just go to the halfway point. If you wanted 3 3/4, you would count to 1/4, half, 3 3/4. So that's dividing the inch into 4 little increments. So that's why it's a quarter. So you're going up in quarters. If you wanted 3 3/8, you would count the next line down. So the half is the highest line, then the quarter is the next line down, then the 1/8 is the next line down, as in height wise this way. So that is very helpful on the trimmer, that it does have different size lines for each increment, so you know that as the lines are getting shorter, the increments are getting smaller. So you've got 1/8. So what did I say? 3 3/8. So you've got 1, 2, 3/8 there. So then if you wanted 3 3/16, you'd start at the very smallest line. So then 1, 2, 3. I hope I'm making sense. It's making sense in my head, so I'm sure somebody out there, it will make sense to them as well. So very, very quickly, because I don't work in centimetres, and for some reason they don't, it just doesn't work in my brain. But you've got your centimetres here. So if you wanted 5.5 centimetres, you would just go down to that halfway point. And then for centimetres, it's divided up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a centimetre is divided into 10 little increments. So then if it was 5 and I think it would be 5 1/3. I think you write it. I'm not actually sure, to be honest, how you write the increments. Do you just do 5.3 or something like that? So it would be 5 and 1, 2, 3. So a centimetre is divided up into 10. But like I said, I don't work in centimetres, so it frazzles my brain for some reason trying to figure out centimetres. Inches to me, it just makes sense. I can look at something and say, oh yeah, that's 3 inches. Probably because of my heels. I know when I look at a pair of shoes, oh, that's 3 inches. That's a little bit low for me. Let's go a bit higher. Oh, 5 inches. That'll do nicely. So yeah, I genuinely think that's why inches works for me, because of shoes. Oh gosh, so I will zoom you back out so you can have a look at the trimmer. So very, very quickly going over the actual trimmer, you've got an arm that extends out, so that goes up to 14.5 inches that way, and you do have the measurements all the way along that way, which is very helpful. So this way it is, I don't actually know how long it is in inches, it's just over nearly 13 inches this way, and the squares on here are in centimetres, which is I don't like centimetres, but anyway. And like I said, you probably can't make it out, but there is a ruler on here as well. You've got your 2 cutting blades, well no, 2 blades. One is for scoring and one is for cutting. The lighter grey is scoring, the darker grey is for cutting, and they do pop out down here. So whoops, I can't do it with nails. There you go. They do pop out so you can change them. And is there a replacement for the trimming? Hang on, let's just have a look, because we used to have replacement blades for the scoring thing. Then I think, yes, yeah, they are back. So in the catalogue, page 205, you can see you can get your replacement cutting blades and replacement scoring blades, and actually the trimmer mat, which is, I'll show you, this bit, because this is where the blade actually cuts into. So over time that is going to get worn away because it's having something going up it all the time. So you can replace these as well. So on page 205 of the catalogue you will find that. So if you need a trimmer, then let me know, and I'll put a link for it in the description, but if you want a catalogue even, let me know, and so you can have a look at it in there. And another feature of the trimmer which I like, this locks into place, so when you're moving it around it's not flying everywhere. This has a little foot on it, so that when this arm is extended it's level with the rest of the cutting surface, because if it didn't then it would be doing that, which is annoying, but also it would throw your scoring off a little bit in your cutting. And then on the back, why this is so noisy is on the back there is a little compartment where you can put tools in and whatever, and I just store some replacement cutting blades in there, so they're always in there moving around. That's why my trimmer is very noisy. But you could get a scoring tool, a piercing tool in there, the bone folder. Ooh, you could get a bone folder in there if you squeeze it in. You know, a pen, whatever. So you can get all sorts in there. It's got rubber feet so it won't slip. And yeah, that is pretty much all of the trimmer's features. What I usually do every so often is clean out this with my pokey tool, because you might get some bits of paper in there, bits of fluff, and just cleaning that out means it cuts a little bit better and your blades will last longer. And I will wipe this down every so often, because if you cut in, things get sticky, and you can get little residue on there. So I just use my awesome surgical spirits. If you've been watching my videos lately, you know how much I love surgical spirits. It's the best thing since sliced bread. So I will just wipe this down every so often with surgical spirits. And yeah, I think that was everything that I was going to talk about to do with the trimmer. So yeah, I will, like I said, I'll leave links to the ruler so you can download one and print it off. I will leave links in the description for the trimmer. I do think it is a very, very good trimmer. I use it every day. I do have a big old caterpillar as well. It was on offer, so I kind of, yeah. But I do genuinely use this every single day that I'm trimming, that I'm cutting and whatever. So it's always out on the side there, ready to use. So I hope that you found this video useful. If you did, like I said, like and share the video, and leave me a comment. What trimmer have you got? Do you work in inches or centimetres? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll leave another couple of tutorials over there for you to have a watch of. So thanks very much, and I will see you next time.